Okay, and welcome. It is officially 7 o'clock, and you have wandered into the precedence and conflict resolution training for South Carolina PTA. My name is Helena Miller. I am the state president of South Carolina PTA. I have made sure that everybody gets muted as they enter this room because, as you probably heard a few seconds ago, we are recording all these trainings. So the content will be available for everybody to access off our website in a couple of days once we get a chance to upload it. So first of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you for taking a little bit of time this evening to hopefully learn something new or get an opportunity to get a couple of questions answered or what it may be, because it's part of, how we grow as a stronger PTA across our entire state. So the presenters today is going to be myself and my president-elect, Jessica McKinley. I do know that we have a couple of other state board members that are also on this Zoom. I do see them in the attendee list. So what we are asking, since we are recording the trainings, is that any questions that you may have that pop up during the presentations, go ahead and put them in the chat, and Jessica and possibly one of the other board members can jump in and answer them. And when we're finished, we're going to have more of a casual Q&A type session towards the end. But that will give everybody who is potentially accessing this training a little later an opportunity to kind of follow the slide deck and do it that way. So first and foremost, why are we doing trainings and why are we doing this specific training? Well, the reality is that some of you are brand new in your roles, which is super exciting. And some of you have been doing this for a while, but either way, there's always new things to learn. And anytime we can come together and share information is always great. So that's the reason why we're doing it. I think it's important to also state that as much as we do have slide decks, and those will be, again, accessible later, the idea is not for us to just deliver a slide deck because we firmly do believe that you know how to read. It's more of a kind of our thoughts and feelings about the information that you will see. So without further ado, I'm going to get started because I want to make sure that we're respectful of your time. Again, it's supposed to be fun to be in PTA. It's not supposed to be a lengthy, long task for the evening. So let's get started. We're going to start off with making sure that I can share my little slide deck with y'all. Can somebody unmute themselves and let them know whether you can see my deck or not?
Yes, I can see you.
We can see it.
Phenomenal. Okay, so we're going to start off with talking a little bit about PTA presidents. And my phone number is there. It's there for a reason. I'm an amazing texter. If you ever have questions in your roles, take a second, jot down my phone number. If you have questions that pop up, shoot me a text. I am thrilled to try to help you as best as I can, or point you to one of my other board members who may be better equipped depending on the topic. Okay. So first and foremost, there are two websites that you really should have saved as your go-to guides. The first one is the National PTA, and the second one is South Carolina PTA. The reason why is specifically on our site, SCPTA, we do post a lot of how-to guides, a lot of tips and tricks, and a wealth of information that is always accessible. The other thing we always do is also to post all of these trainings. So if you 6 months from now sit there and think, gosh, what was it that they were talking about? You can always go back and review. So just kind of keep that in mind, that those two are a wealth of information. So, how do you get started or continue, as it may be for some of you, as an effective president? Well, I think the first starting point is to figure out who are you as a leader? Because your role as president is really that of a leader of your local unit, or in some cases, the district. Everybody has their own leadership style. When you have been in your professional or volunteer capacity, I am sure that you have been um, in the presence of great leaders, not so great leaders, um, and by observing some things around you, you will adapt your own leadership strategy. This part is important, especially if you're stepping in as this is your first term, right? You are the best leader that you can be as a person by utilizing your own strengths and weaknesses. I go to say that in the sense that sometimes when people step into a leadership role, they feel like they have to mimic exactly what the person before them has done. And that's absolutely not the case. You have to use your own passion and make it your own in how you lead. I know that for me, I focus on relationships and to make sure that I hopefully empower people around me to do the best they can in their roles. But in order to be a good leader, you have to know what your responsibilities are as a president on the local level, on the state, and then sometimes even on the national level. Um, the other part is to make sure that you surround yourself and build a strong team, and that you plan ahead. When you look at this slide, you will see a lot of things that talk about setting calendars, knowing your budget, pre-planning fundraisers, and all of these things comes down to basically it's your game plan for the year. What is the goals that you want to do during your term this year, or during the coming school year, and having a strong communication plan together with your principal and school staff so that you can do what's best for the kids and staff at your school together. Here we go. So how do you do this? This sounds great. You need a plan. Awesome, right? Some of, or a big part of that starts during the summer. Hopefully some of you have already gotten started, whether it is ideas or obviously the budget that you would have approved at the end of last year, school year. But part of it is also taking inventory of what you did last year that worked and what you did that may need some improvement. It's important to kind of review your last year, whether you were the president or not, to see how things could. I see a raised hand. No. Okay.
It was me. Somebody was trying to be let in, but they're in now.
Okay,
Never
perfect.
mind.
Obviously, we need to make sure that all of the financial records are in compliance. And as you start planning, again, it goes back to building the team around you, right? Your job as president is to be the coordinator and the leader. It is not to take on every single task that your PTA is trying to accomplish. That is not feasible, and nobody is amazing at every single thing. So your takeaway from this slide should really be two things: planning and delegate. Find volunteers, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a little bit, that are willing to take on some of the responsibilities, whether they're big or small things. And again, start thinking about things for the spring already in the fall so that you're not trying to play catch up during the year. So a lot of times, some of the challenges that we see is finding those balances between what the PTA wants to do and what the administration at the school wants to do. And it is crucial to your success and for the success of the entire organization that you establish really, really strong principal relationships. Sometimes you have new principals that come in that have different experiences with parent organizations. Sometimes you have principals that are new in their roles and are not familiar with what PTA can do for their schools. But it's important that the PTA understands your role, that you keep that communication line with your principal open, and to include your principal throughout the process. Because again, it is their school. And obviously your mission and vision for the students and for the staff should be the same. So again, making sure that you meet with them regularly. And also, as the leader of your unit, you're the one who sets the tone for how you interact with school staff, right? Because there may be times when you have an idea that seems amazing from the PTA standpoint, but there may be a reason from the principal standpoint why this may not be the time for this specific fundraiser or event or whatever it may be. So again, relationships is a process. It's not done overnight, but focus really, really hard on bringing in your principal to be a strong advocate for the PTA. So how do you do this? Well, number one is you meet regularly, right? And you make sure that you develop your priorities together. Make sure that your principal understands what your budget and what your calendar and what your suggestions look like. But that doesn't mean that the principal sets the budget or has any kind of voting powers of it. What it means is that they should have input about projects that you should take into consideration. Again, it goes back to communication. It goes back to making sure that you are both respecting each other's decisions. So that brings us to PTA etiquette, right? So as volunteers, we're often frequently in the school buildings. Each school district and sometimes each principal have different rules that they have set for their buildings as to how they welcome volunteers, what criteria are met, if you can or cannot bring children into the buildings, etc., as far as like younger siblings. I think it's important to make sure that you always follow those rules, that you are considerate to the school staff. Your presence in that school building should be an add-on. It should not be something that is making it harder or being a burden on security or anything along those lines, right? And again, a lot of us end up in PTA originally because we love spending time with our kids. And it is fun to be able to see your kid throughout the school day. But there is a difference between saying a quick hello when they pass you in the hallway and you're in the workroom, or taking an opportunity to have lunch with your child versus sort of cornering a teacher into an impromptu parent-teacher conference. Those two are two very different things. So make sure that you keep that professional kind of boundary between your PTA role and your parent role when you're in the school buildings. So this is the million-dollar questions. Okay, great. I want to delegate and I need volunteers. How do I do this? Well, it depends on your school environment. It depends on how big your PTA group is to begin with. I think that the first part is to recognize that your school is open to everyone, and so should your PTA be. A lot of times people are afraid of joining a PTA because they have preconceived notions about it being potentially cliquish, or maybe they don't think PTA is for them. Well, here's the good news. PTA is for all parents and all people who are involved in kids. So fostering a community where you are actively welcoming to all the stakeholders that you have is number one. I think number two is plan ahead. Have an idea of what volunteer capacities that you're looking for. Use various forms of media in order to communicate, because there may be some that you reach by newsletters. Others are more active on social media. Back to the principal relationship, ask if you can get a corner of their weekly newsletter. Also, schedule some events that are specifically geared towards attracting new members and volunteers. Maybe appreciation events, have, popsicles on the playground. Those are some of the more common ones. And I think when you try to approach new people to volunteer, it's always easier to get people to agree to and kind of become part of the group by asking for a specific thing rather than saying, "Hi, come volunteer with the PTA." It's a lot easier to say, "Hey, Susie or Bobby, I would love if you would give me about 30 minutes. I need somebody to man a table at an event next week. Do you think you could do that?" So those are some tips for how you recruit volunteers. And that brings us back to, it's one thing to get them in the door, but you also want them to stay. You want them to have a good experience. We know why we start volunteering, right? It's a love for kids. Some folks are just looking to get more involved in the community or in the school. You may have parents that are feeling like some of their talents and gifts are not utilized. It makes people feel good to volunteer, right? But then you want them to stay. And what usually make people stay is that they feel like they know what they're doing in their role, so they're well trained. They get positive feedback. They feel appreciated and welcome. And overall, you let them know that they made a difference. A lot of times, as a president of a PTA, your job is very much to be the cheerleader for the whole organization. So why do we do this? I think every single PTA member across this nation probably has different reasons as to why they choose to be involved in volunteering with children in PTA in our schools. But we do know that the active presence of parent engagement in our schools makes a huge difference. Research data shows that the higher levels of parental involvement is directly connected to student achievement. The biggest part is also setting a good example, right? When kids know that the adults in their circle perceive school as something that's really important, they start seeing school as really important too, and it becomes more of a priority. And again, as a parent, being able to be an active advocate for your child and for other children gives you, and when you volunteer, that gives you an opportunity to have firsthand knowledge of the needs of that specific classroom or the school that you are at. So one of the things that PTAs often get into is volunteer term limits, or rather the opposite of that. And before I get into that, Sierra or Jessica, I think we have a few people in the waiting room, if you don't mind letting them in. Thank you. So our bylaws that, we have both on the state level, on the district level, and on the local school level, it clearly defines how long you're supposed to serve on like the executive committee, etc. And those rules should obviously be followed. But I think it's also important to recognize that our job as leaders, whether it is as a president or another role within the PTA, is really to foster and educate the person that comes behind you, right? This is not a one-man or a one-woman show. And my president-elect is actually on this call because she's going to be talking here in a little bit. Will probably tell you that one of the things that I often say is my job as the state president is to make sure that she has all the tools that she needs to be an effective state president, right? So in your role, you need to make sure that we don't have folks that are in the same positions too long. And the reason is really twofold. Number one, it's discouraging for new volunteers coming in. But number two is you're not growing your leaders, right? In order to advance your organization and in order to get a more cohesive group, you really need to serve in a multitude of different capacities throughout your PTA experience. And if you have somebody who's always sort of owning one piece, when that person either moves away from the school, their children ages out, or something else happens, nobody really knows how to continue that specific task. And that's not good for the longevity of the organization. Think of it like this. When you work during your PTA years to build and grow and make your local unit super strong, you want to be able to come back in 10 or 15 years to that elementary school and see that they still have a really cool, working, hard core, amazing PTA. What you wouldn't want to hear is, oh my gosh, we remember you. It was so great when you were here, but then it just kind of folded and disappeared, right? That's not the legacy that you want to leave behind. So, and sometimes this is hard because people get possessive sort of over their specific tasks and roles. But as the PTA president, it is your leadership responsibility to kind of make sure that we get a good balance within our volunteer community. So then comes the PTA board meetings. Sometimes it is the least enjoyable part of PTA, but it is the place where we make decisions. It is the place where we formally discuss and where everybody's voices are heard. I think number one is always be respectful of people's time. Meetings should not go on for hours and hours at end, right? You're there to conduct business, and then everybody goes home to spend some quality time with family. One way to establish this is to not hash out every single issue in the actual business meeting, but what you do instead is have committees that can work on those detailed tasks and then come back with reports to the larger meeting, and then you can make decisions based on their recommendations. And one of the things that makes this process easier, but it's also one of the more formal and sometimes one of the things that people struggle a little bit with is to follow Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedure. And we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But as part of that is to make sure also that you set an agenda and you publish it so that everybody understands what is going to take place at the PTA meeting. So Robert's Rules of Order, 101. This can sometimes be very intimidating, but it really shouldn't be. The reason why Robert's Rules is pretty much the guiding light for most organizations, including a lot of elected bodies, is because it's really just a system to make sure that you keep meetings on track. Sometimes people get passionate. Sometimes people start sort of talking about other things and deviating from what the purpose of the meeting is. My number one recommendation, and there are several of them on Amazon or other bookstores, is to buy one of those little sort of Cliff Note guides for Robert's Rule of Order. And I know that sometimes when you're sitting with a group that you're very close with and it's sometimes feels a little silly to sound so formal. But it really serves two purposes, like I said. Number one is to keep your meetings on track, but it also makes it easier for the secretary to properly record what has transpired. Because one of the responsibilities of your unit is to make sure that you keep meeting minutes. So, number one is you always start the meeting with an agenda that everybody has seen, and you make sure that it's approved and that you follow it in the order that it has been posted, right? Number two is you approve the minutes from the last board meeting. And I'm going to move this down a little bit just to make sure that I can see. There we go. Number three is we make sure that the treasurer's report is heard. You normally don't need to approve the treasurer's report, but again, it's important that everybody is understanding where you're at financially. And then if you have committees that come back with reports, this is their opportunity. Then you have possibly some old business to go through, and maybe some new business. And then finally, you adjourn the meeting. You make sure that you record all of them. And again, the voting procedures are sort of highlighted at the bottom of this slide. But it's pretty simple, and you've heard it probably a million times. But as president, you preside over the meeting. You will ask for a motion to approve the minutes, for instance, and then you will have somebody make the motion. It also requires a second, and then you will take a vote. And that is the very basics. But again, I do recommend that everybody go ahead and buy one of those little Cliff Note guides just to make sure that you can brush up on some of the terminology and so forth. So budget and finances. And before I even get started on this, I am going to tell you that I do recommend that all of you as presidents go ahead and kind of, view the treasurer's training that we did a few days ago if you did not attend it, just because it's always a good idea for you to have an understanding of what the treasurer's responsibility is. So, the very skinny version of it is that the board needs to, approve a budget that has been developed, and then the general membership votes to approve it in the spring. You can't spend money unless it has been in the budget. That said, a budget can be amended by a vote, and also, make sure that you follow all of the deadlines. You will get communications as far as uploading things into givebacks. Again, we are pretty good about harassing you with updates as far as when these things are due. So make sure that all of your contact information is correct in givebacks, and just kind of follow the instructions that comes through that way. So when it comes to liability and insurance, you are required to carry off liability insurance. Most of you use AIM. That covers both the officer and the liability for the organization. Also make sure that you know what's going on at the school. All of this goes back to that really crucial relationship with your principal. Make sure that you keep the records. And again, part of this in detail is available on SCPTA that shows exactly how long you are required to keep all of the records. But financials, obviously, all of your meeting minutes actually needs to be kept forever. And they need to be kept in a place where it is accessible to anybody who wants to view it, because you are a public organization. So again, make sure that you follow all of the rules as far as how we handle money. Couple of tips and tricks is obviously make sure that you have a safety box, like a safe box or something like that, to to store things in. Most of our schools in the state now have very specific rules as far as requiring you to make sure that money is deposited. That's also best practice. And don't ever take funds home with you. Fundraising guidelines. As a state PTA, we do not endorse specific companies. We do encourage folks to talk to each other, either on our social media groups or others, to share positive, etc. Reviews. Make sure that you, of course, do the due diligence that you should do, like read the contract before you sign it. Again, the trick for having successful fundraisers is those where parents understand why are you doing it, how are you using the money, and make sure that you kind of report those results ongoing. As far as program ideas, obviously we post a lot of this stuff throughout the year. You will see some ideas also on our website. And there is no good, perfect fit that fits every single school. It all depends on what your school is like and what is a good fit, right? Sometimes I think of schools like families, right? They're all very similar, but they also have their own personalities. It depends on your size. Also, a lot of times it's nice to be able to sort of do something programming wise that works with some of the goals that your principal has set for their school. So if you have a principal that is, for instance, focusing a lot on academic achievement in a certain area, you can do programming that works with that as well. Also, make sure that there's really no reason to reinvent the wheel. We have a ton of schools across the state as well as the nation. You will find a whole lot of these kind of programming ideas on both nationals and our website as well, where copy and imitation is a form of flattery. So please do. I have put down a lot of different links that also has some of these kind of program ideas that you may want to browse through together with your board members and volunteers as well. And that concludes my portion of the training. So at this point, I am going to stop my share and I am going to turn over the hosting to my fabulous president-elect, Jessica McKinley, if I can find her in the list. Let's see here. So the good news is we have a ton of attendees. The bad news is I can't find my president-elect. Let's see here.
I promise I'm here.
I know, I see you now. Okay, you're officially the host. Yes, I want to
Thank
make you the
you.
host. You go, girl.
There is a question in the chat and it says, can the president be the parliamentarian also?
So there is no regulation that you have an official parliamentarian. It is not best practice to have the president also serve as the parliamentarian in an official capacity, right? So everybody is going to handle this a little bit differently. But in my experience, having somebody who has either served as a president or is used to Robert's Rules of Order serve as sort of your parliamentarian, either unofficially or officially, is much better. And the reason why is it's really your checks and balances. So that's the long answer. The short answer is no. There's nothing that prevents the principal from being parliamentarian. Okay, Jessica, you're up.
Okay, hello. My name is Jessica McKinley and I'm the president-elect of the South Carolina PTA. So during this presentation, You will learn about conflict, the impacts it has on your PTA, how to address and resolve conflict, effective communication, and what to do if you're unable to resolve any issues on your own. Please feel free to write any questions that you have in the chat box, and we will have some time at the end of the presentation to answer those questions. So let's begin. All right, so what is conflict? Conflict is a serious disagreement or argument between individuals or groups that can lead to negative outcomes. So let's go over some impacts that conflict has on your PTA. Negative effects. Persistent conflicts can lead to diversions within the PTA. They can divert energy and resources away from the PTA's core objectives and activities, diminishing overall productivity. Prolonged conflicts may cause the PTA to lose focus on its primary mission and objectives. Ongoing conflicts can strain interpersonal relationships among PTA members, which makes it challenging to work together effectively. It can deter potential members and volunteers from joining or participating in PTA activities due to the negative environment that they may perceive. And members may be less willing to share new ideas and innovative solutions, hindering the PTA's growth. So believe it or not, there could be some positive impacts of conflict. So effective conflict resolution can lead to better problem solving as diverse perspectives are considered, and this results in more powerful solutions. It can encourage members to improve their communication and active listening skills to better understand the issues. Successfully managed conflicts can lead to greater adaptability as the PTA learns to navigate and resolve challenges. And resolving conflicts promote a sense of accomplishment and stronger bonds among members who have successfully worked through these differences. In short, the impact of conflict on local units largely depends on how it's managed. When handled constructively, conflicts can serve as a means for positive change and growth. However, when conflicts are left unaddressed or poorly managed, they can disrupt the PTA's functions. So let's understand conflict. There are many different types of conflict. Interpersonal conflict occurs between individuals and is often rooted in personal differences, communication breakdowns, or disagreements over personal or professional matters. Intrapersonal conflicts are internal conflicts within an individual, and these may involve more moral dilemmas, self-doubt, or competing desires. Intergroup conflict involves disagreements between different groups and may arise from competition for resources, differing goals, or opposing interests. Intragroup conflicts occur within a single group or team. They may have differing opinions, objectives, or strategies that can lead to disputes. Value-based conflicts arise from differences in moral or ethical principles, and task conflicts involve differences in opinions related to the work. Relationship conflicts, and this is the one that I see most often, not just with local unit PTAs, but with everybody. Okay. And relationship conflicts are primarily about personal tensions and disputes between individuals themselves. So what causes conflict? When PTA members have different ideas about what the PTA's primary objective should be, conflicts can emerge. For example, some members may prioritize academic programs while others may focus on social activities. Poor or ineffective communication can lead to misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and frustration. Disagreements about how funds and resources should be used can lead to conflict. This can include disputes over budget allocations or fundraising activities. Conflicts can occur when members are unsatisfied with decision-making processes, such as how decisions are made and who has a say. Differences in personalities, working styles, or interpersonal conflicts among members can create tension. And lack of clarity about the roles and responsibilities of PTA members, officers, or committees can lead to conflicts, as maybe they'll step on each other's toes or feel unsupported. They may arise when members have differing ethical or moral views on issues like fundraising methods, program content, or event planning. When individual members have personal agendas or use the PTA for personal gain, It can lead to conflicts with those who perceive ulterior motives. And remember, we should never use the PTA for personal gain. Failing to be inclusive or representing the entire school community can result in conflict, as some members may feel excluded. Stress and overcommitment can lead to burnout and frustration among PTA members. And Helena had already went over this, but please remember to delegate. Disagreements about the interpretation or application of the PTA's policies and bylaws can also lead to disputes. So let's go over some conflict resolution styles. Conflict resolution styles can vary among individuals, and understanding these styles is important for local units to address conflicts effectively. Collaborators seek to find win-win solutions by involving all parties in the decision-making process. They are open to compromise and value long-term relationships. Compromisers are willing to give and take. They aim for a middle ground solution that provides some satisfaction to everyone involved. Accommodators are more concerned about maintaining relationships and may be willing to yield their own interests to satisfy others. Problem solvers focus on addressing the root causes of the conflict and finding practical solutions. Withdrawers disengage from conflict and may physically or emotionally distance themselves from the situation, but this can provide time and space for individuals to cool down. Consultants seek input from others and consider their opinions before making a decision. And mediators act as a neutral third party to help facilitate discussions and negotiations. And this could also be your district or state PTA. So why don't you take a minute to think about what conflict resolution style you think you are. Remember, there are no wrong answers. Effective communication. Remember, communication is extremely important. It plays a very important role in conflict within PTAs in many different ways. Clear and effective communication can help prevent misunderstandings, which are a common source of conflicts. When members communicate openly and transparently, it's easier to be sure that everyone is on the same page. And you're going to hear me use that word a lot today. Be transparent. It allows members to express their concerns, voice their opinions, and share feedback. This can help in identifying potential conflicts at an early stage before they escalate into more significant issues. Open and honest communication encourages members to express their viewpoints and concerns without fear of retaliation. And it is essential in the negotiation and resolution of conflicts. Effective communication skills such as active listening and empathy enable PTA members to understand each other's perspectives and work together to find solutions. Clearly communicating roles, responsibilities, and expectations for PTA members and leaders can help prevent conflicts arising from misunderstandings or unmet expectations. And it ensures that decisions are made collectively and that all members have a say in the process. Being inclusive warrants that all members, regardless of background or perspective, feel valued and heard. This can help prevent conflicts arising from feelings of exclusion or discrimination. Good communication promotes a supportive and respectful environment. When members feel that they can communicate their concerns without judgment, they are more likely to address these issues early. And it ensures that members are well informed about PTA activities, goals, and achievements, which can reduce conflict stemming from misinformation or a lack of transparency. Verbal communication. So effective verbal communication involves using words and tones to express thoughts and feelings, as well as asking questions. And when possible, communicate by phone or in person, as tones can be misinterpreted in emails or texts, leading to misunderstandings. And actively listen. And this goes for verbal and nonverbal communication. And now we're going to talk about nonverbal communication. Maintaining eye contact, nodding in agreement, and using open body language demonstrates to the speaker that you are actively listening and engaged in the conversation. Signals like a sympathetic facial expression can convey empathy, showing that you understand this and share the speaker's feelings. Maintaining consistent nonverbal behavior, such as using open and honest body language, helps build trust. Observing nonverbal signs of emotions, such as facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice can guide your approach in addressing others' needs and concerns. Simple nonverbal cues like a head of the nod or a smile can help diffuse tension and signal that you are open to finding common ground. And techniques like deep breathing or self-soothing gestures to help maintain your emotions can help you remain composed and focused at the task of hand so you don't get really upset in the moment. And avoiding aggressive or threatening nonverbal cues such as crossed arms, pointing fingers, or invading personal space, maybe getting in somebody's face too closely. Active listening. Make eye contact, use open body language, and manage your facial expressions. Pay attention to whether the speaker is loud, quiet, scared, or threatening. Try to understand what emotions the speaker might be feeling, such as anger, frustration, or sadness. And don't rush the speaker or finish their sentences. We all know how frustrating that can be. And you can try saying things like yes, or and then, and restate what the speaker has said in your own words to show that you understand. And if needed, ask for clarification to gain a better understanding of the other person's interests and priorities. So let's go over some resolution processes. So define the problem. Clearly articulate the specific issue that is causing the conflict within your PTA. This may involve multiple perspectives, so it's really important to gather input from everyone involved. And encourage each party to express their interests, concerns, and feelings related to the conflict. Generate solutions. Facilitate a collaborative brainstorming session where all parties contribute possible solutions to the issue. And this can be done in a structured manner, allowing each participant an opportunity to share their ideas and encourage creative thinking. Evaluating your options. Assessing the value of each proposed solutions. Consider factors such as resource requirements, the impact on stakeholders or members, and whether it aligns with the PTA's goals and values. Together, rank or prioritize the solution based on their supposed benefits. This could involve discussions on the pros and cons of each option and its potential impact on the PTA. Implement the solution. Create a detailed action plan outlining the steps required to implement the chosen solution. Assign responsibilities to specific individuals or have subcommittees to warrant accountability. Establish a timeline with milestones for tracking the progress of your implementation. And this helps so that the resolution process stays on track. Schedule a follow-up meeting to assess the progress of the implemented solution, and if necessary, make adjustments based on the feedback received during that follow-up meeting. So how can we prevent conflict? Nobody wants to have conflict right away, right? So here are some tips. Look at your bylaws, standing rules, and Robert's Rules of Orders, and you'd be really surprised at how many conflicts can be resolved simply by reading your bylaws. Admit to your mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Remember, nobody's perfect. Do not make assumptions. Don't assume that others feel a certain way or they don't feel a certain way. And put aside your personal feelings to achieve the PTA's goals. Avoid using you statements. Instead, use I statements. So for example, instead of saying, you make me angry, say, I feel angry when I'm interrupted. Or instead of, you never listen to me, say, I feel unheard. Avoid being defensive and watch your tone, especially when communicating via email or text. And don't gossip or badmouth others, which causes conflict and really it reflects poorly on you. Some proactive conflict prevention strategies. Establish clear communication channels. Be sure that communication channels are open, transparent, and accessible to all members, and regularly share updates, announcements, and decisions to keep everyone informed. Clearly define and communicate the roles and responsibilities of each member or board member, and regularly revisit and clarify these roles as needed to avoid misunderstandings. Establish a culture of constructive feedback where members feel comfortable expressing concerns and providing input. Clearly outline decision-making processes within the PTA. Remember, your membership is who makes the decisions and the board is who executes those decisions. Include mechanisms for seeking input from all members whenever possible. So this can include a suggestions jar, maybe at the front office of your school, or the opportunity to speak at general membership meetings. Ensure inclusivity in decision-making by encouraging diverse perspectives and actively seek out input from those diverse groups to avoid feelings of exclusion. Develop and communicate policies that proactively address potential sources of conflict and include guidelines on conflict of interest, dispute resolution, and ethical conduct. Schedule regular check-ins with individual members to address concerns and challenges and assess overall team dynamics during these check-ins. Building a positive team culture. Establish a culture of open and transparent communication and encourage active listening to be sure that all members feel comfortable expressing their thoughts. Connect individual tasks and activities to the broader goals of your unit while regularly sharing the purpose and mission of the PTA. Encourage an environment of trust where members feel confident in each other's intentions by building that trust through reliability, consistency, and transparency. Recognize the contributions of each member and acknowledge and celebrate each other's achievements. Embrace diversity and inclusivity within the PTA and foster a sense of belonging by being sure that all members feel valued and respected. So let's go over some PTA specific conflicts. Disputes may arise over the allocation of financial resources, such as budgeting for events or initiatives. And here you can establish a transparent budgeting process that involves input from all members. Clearly communicate financial decisions and prioritize initiatives based on the PTA goals. Also, this would be your annual budget that your board and your membership vote on every year. Poor communication can lead to misunderstandings, misinformation, and feelings of exclusion. Implement effective communication strategies such as regular updates through newsletters, emails, social media, and even backpack flyers. Differences in decision-making styles or perceived exclusion from decision-making processes can lead to conflict within your unit. So establish transparent decision-making procedures. Encourage inclusivity by seeking input from various members and ensuring that those decisions align with the PTA's mission and values. And personalities may clash, leading to tension and difficulty working together. Not everybody likes everybody, right? So foster a positive team culture through team building exercises. Address conflicts early enough through open communication and, if necessary, involve a neutral mediator to facilitate a resolution. Differences may arise in planning events, such as disagreements over themes, budgets, or logistics. Establish event planning committees or subcommittees that include diverse perspectives. Clearly outline those roles and responsibilities. And disputes may happen between the PTA and school administrators over priorities, policies, or communication. And make sure you establish open lines of communication with school administrators. Schedule regular meetings to discuss concerns and collaborations on shared goals. Find the common ground for the benefit of the students. Remember, we are all here for the children. And please don't forget that your principal or an appointed representative should be included in all PTA-related discussions and decisions. And you can see the PowerPoint presentation that we did last year on President's Principles and PTA Etiquette, which is on the SCPTA website under Leader Resources and then Leadership Training Webinars. So reporting and escalation. What should you do if conflicts can't be resolved amongst each other? So first, you'll document the conflict. Maintain a detailed record of the conflict, including the issues involved, actions taken, and communication exchanges. Document any attempts made at a resolution, including dates, individuals involved, and outcomes. Get the local PTA leadership involved. Involve local PTA leadership in the process resolutions. Seek guidance and support from elected officers, committee chairs, or a designated conflict resolution team within the local unit. If the conflict is within the local unit itself or the leadership, or if it persists, then you will escalate the matter to the district PTA to seek assistance in mediating this conflict. State PTA intervention. If the conflict remains unresolved at the district level, or if there is no district PTA, involve the state PTA. And you can reach out to any state PTA leader who will be able to provide guidance or mediate the dispute. And all state PTA leaders' contact information is on the SCPTA website. So here are some helpful hints when involving the South Carolina PTA. Clearly organize all relevant documentation, including communication records, meeting minutes, and anything else related to the conflict. Prepare a summarized report of the conflict, including a timeline of events, attempts at a resolution, and the current status. And include the nature of the conflict, people involved, key issues, and any actions taken. Be sure to clearly articulate the impact of the conflict that it's having on your local unit. And again, any state board member listed on the SCPTA website can be contacted. A meeting may be required, whether it's in person or via Zoom. And please be sure to include the summarized report and provide any recommendations for resolving the conflict, as well as offer insights as to how the state PTA can support your local unit in achieving a resolution. Please respect the confidentiality and privacy throughout the reporting process and avoid sharing sensitive information with unauthorized people. And you can also ask the state PTA representative to keep certain information confidential as well. Demonstrate a willingness to collaborate with the state PTA in finding a resolution and highlight the importance of a mutual approach for the benefit of your PTA community. And participate actively in the resolution process facilitated by the SCPTA, and be open to dialogue and compromise to achieve a resolution that is fair and beneficial to all parties. And keep the SCPTA representatives who were contacted updated on the final outcome. Trust and respect, and this is extremely important within your board. When members trust each other, they are more likely to communicate openly and honestly. And trust encourages a collaborative environment where members work together towards common goals. It also reduces the fear of hidden agendas and promotes teamwork. Trust minimizes the likelihood of misinterpretations and assumptions. A trusting atmosphere allows members to feel supported and valued, making it easier to address conflicts constructively rather than defensively. The importance of respect. Respect ensures that all voices are heard and considered, which helps in finding a solution. Respectful interactions between each other reduces hostility and aggression, making it easier to discuss differing opinions without escalating tensions. It fosters a positive relationship among members. Strong relationships built on mutual respect are much more resilient to conflicts. When members feel respected, they are more likely to express their opinions and concerns without fear of judgment or retribution. Building and nurturing relationships with PTA members is essential. Strong relationships promote teamwork and collective problem solving. Positive relationships ensure that all members feel valued and heard, and a connected group creates a supportive and unified community. Good relationships encourage open and honest dialogue and establish a foundation of mutual trust and respect. Strong relationships help sustain the PTA's long-term goals and initiatives. That will be the end of this presentation. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to check the chat real quick.
Don't think we have any questions in the chat.
And y'all can come off of mute if you'd like to ask.
And I think it also helps if you stop screen sharing so that we can see each other a little bit bigger.
Oh, there it is.
There we go.
Hi, this is Heidi Bone. I was just going to say, Jessica, you've been in touch with our new principal at Lexington Elementary. Look forward to meeting you.
Yes.
Yes, so just so you know that the PTA is looking forward to becoming compliant and growing with y'all's direction and support. So thank you.
Yeah, we're really happy that you're working with us, and I believe I will be there via Google Meet on Wednesday.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
That's perfect. It's perfect. So we do have a question here of what tools would you provide for a person that witnesses a conflict but don't want to become directly involved? So, Jessica, I don't know what your take on it is. I think the first tool is honestly provide them this training. To have an opportunity to kind of go through and see some of the steps that we are suggesting. It's hard to answer that question when you when you don't know the specifics. But what I would say is, if you witness a conflict and you don't want to get directly involved, I think maybe talking to one of the PTA leaders in that unit that you think has respect, you know, from both of the parties involved in that conflict, to maybe say, I think there may be a concern, you know, and see if you can handle it that way, would be my first takes. How about, what do you think, Jessica?
Yeah, I agree. And you know, if anybody has any issues or you need to vent or anything, y'all can call any of us, and whatever you don't want us to repeat, we will not. Whatever
Mhm.
conversation that we have stays just between us, and that's it. Just that's it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I agree with you, Helena. Absolutely.
Mhm. But just like that training deck said, sometimes it's good to have that neutral party. And in each unit, you usually have a peacekeeper. You know, everybody has their own personalities, right? But you usually have somebody who is tends to be the peacekeeper, who tends to be somebody that everybody respects. So that would be my, I think, our recommendation. But
Absolutely.
again, every situation is different, right?
It sure is. Did anybody else have any questions or comments? Anything you want to say?
So I have a question, a couple of questions.
Yes.
I know you said earlier about, being open and communicating budget, just different things. So when it comes to the teacher and parent relationship, teachers that are not, you would say, that were not involved in PTA, do they have a say so in what happens, what doesn't happen when it comes to PTA? They don't attend meetings, they don't help, but in the background, they're causing a lot of confusion between in the school and with the PTA.
I think that per bylaws, if they are not a PTA member, they do not have a voting voice, right? With that said, it does help tremendously if you have the teachers on board, right? So what my first recommendation in scenarios like that would be is just start building that principal relationship, because the principal really has a way of setting their leadership style and their tone and their expectations to their staff members. Because if the principal shows to their staff members that they're valuing the contributions of PTA and the input of PTA, most of the time, like 100% of the time, the teachers will sort of fall in line and take the lead of the principal, right? And when you have that close relationship with the principal, it also opens you up for other opportunities, like maybe attending staff meetings or being able to sort of make a presentation to teachers to where you can get input. That doesn't mean that they are the ones making the decisions, but it allows you to have sort of a channel with open communication, right? So let's say that you have a thing that you are planning on doing with the PTA and you're getting pushback from the teachers. There may be some reasons behind that isn't clear, and having that, sit down and kind of hash out what's best for everybody, with the principal being your biggest advocate is the best way of handling it. And I think when it comes to the staff, ultimately But the PTA president, you're the leader of the PTA. The principal is the leader of your school, right? So the two of you really need to come up with a game plan and then set the tone or set the stage for how this is implemented in your prospective groups, if that makes sense.
It does.
It's a good question, though, and we hear it all the time, right?
Yes.
And I think that especially because a lot of times staff members are directly interacting with PTA members, and it depends on if you have a principal that is active in kind of fostering those relationships or not.
Right. I agree wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Anybody else? So while you're thinking, you may or may not have seen that we have a little fun drawing going on for all of our trainings. We are having one of those big 40-ounce Stanley Cups with PTA on it that we are going to raffle off when we're done with our training sessions. And your attendance to these training is your official ticket for the drawing. But we need your help because some of you may have logged in with a spouse's account, or some of you show up as iPhone or something like that. So if you could please in the chat type your name and which school you belong to, so that we can record you so that you have a chance to win a Stanley. That would be great. And while you're typing, any other questions or comments, or even things that you think we need more training on, that you would like us to do more trainings on, that would also be helpful for Jessica and I, as well as, I think we still have at least one, or if not two, board members that are on here as well.
Absolutely. We're always open to hearing any suggestions that you all have.
Right.
So Helena, is there
Yes.
presentation out there and all the things that you guys have that kind of explain what PTA is and what PTA is not? Because I know a lot of maybe people inside the school, I mean, just to be honest, they think that we're ATM.
Yes. Yes.
And they can just come and get, so how can we're still trying to navigate that. I understand and helping like a new principal so that we can set that tone and all that stuff. But is there something that maybe I could share with her because we've already met several times, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, just we want better. Yeah.
So the answer is yes. And I also have a different solution as well. So yes, there are documents on the South Carolina website that kind of talks about, what PTA is, what our purpose is, that, we are primarily, or what we are is not primarily, we are an advocacy organization, right? We just happen to do some fundraising in the process. So there are documentations on the website that you can take, kind of rip straight off the resource bank, and customize. I think the other part is also talk to your district leadership about, your school's specific scenario, and kind of have an idea, brainstorming about how to kind of overcome some things that may be specific to that building or that school district and so forth. So my recommendation, Keisha, would be that you reach out to either me or Jen Haley offline, and we can kind of talk through some of the strategies on how we overcome some of that. But there is absolutely documentations that are done both by national and by South Carolina PTA specifically.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry for all the questions.
No.
We love questions.
We're here. We love questions.
There was a couple training that some people had put in the chat box. So Fountain and Elementary asked for give back trainings for new presidents. So if we do have some quick give back videos on the SCPTA website. However, I know that I'm the type of person that learns best when like doing stuff like this live where I can ask questions and not just watching a video. That's just how I learn. So I'm sure we can definitely come up with a give backs training with compliance, how to add members, just a quick overview of everything that give backs has to offer, because give backs has a lot to offer and we are very lucky to have them. Heidi also said how to hold elections when they are not done in the spring, and I can kind of answer that now. Basically, you would do the same thing that you would do if they were held in the spring. You're just doing it in a different month. And you know, we're here to walk you through everything that you need to know. And I believe Crystal Levine is also going to come to your school, Heidi, on Wednesday morning. And yeah, like I said, we can walk you through how to do it, but it's basically the same as if it was done in the spring.
Good questions, though.
Yes, absolutely. And I see some people in here that they want to connect. I love that. Yeah, having local units connecting is awesome. Really. I can't, when I was a local unit president, I learned a lot just by going to other schools and seeing what their PTAs do. They would let us borrow their bingo supplies and all sorts of great stuff. So absolutely. We even have a committee that is going to kind of be similar to this too. So where y'all can connect.
And that also goes back to that whole idea of sharing fundraising ideas, volunteer recruitment tools, and programming. And, you know, there's also nothing to say that schools that are somewhat geographically close can't, you know, collaborate when it comes to certain things, right? Because there's power in numbers, for sure. Yes, I see Lauren is saying that givebacks is great and that they have a Zoom call, had a Zoom call, and that is also a possibility. You know, if you are struggling with pieces of givebacks, their customer service is actually great, and they're tailored specifically to handling local units as well. So for sure. Okay. It may also be that you are sitting here and you're thinking, oh gosh, I will have questions tomorrow. That is perfectly fine, right? So we put our cell phones and our email addresses up when we started today, but you always know that you can go to the website and you can look under About Board of Directors, and we are all there, right? So tomorrow at 2:00 in the afternoon, when you go, gosh, I should have asked this, you know, that's when you just fire off a text or an email. But we wanted to give you kind of an opportunity to address anything that we said tonight that wasn't clear, or if you had any burning questions that you wanted to get off your chest and hopefully be able to solve. Yeah, I'm going to put my number in here too, or my email address again, if I can type right.
Amanda, that we will post the recordings on the website. Is that what you're asking? Or do you mean like without internet access? The actual presentation.
I think
Oh,
she's
the slide
asking
deck?
like for the
Yeah.
slideshow itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we can.
If you
Send it
email
out?
either one of us, actually email both of us. So if you email Helena and Jessica, it's H. Miller and J. McKinley, both at SCPTA. If you email us, we don't have a problem sending you the slide deck. And that goes for anybody who would like a copy of it.
Absolutely.
It just so happens that there are two slide decks. One is mine and one is hers. So we both have to email them, if that makes sense. Right. Well, you know, I think we're sort of seeing how the questions are dwindling down, which is perfectly fine. I think everybody had an opportunity to throw in their name, and hopefully, you know, one of y'all win that amazing Stanley. I just hope that you all have an amazing school start. You know, there's something exciting about the first couple of weeks of school and getting an opportunity to get to know some new parents coming in and new kids and all of the cool stuff that you have planned for the year. So yeah.
Yeah. And we hope that y'all learned a lot from these presentations as well.
Okay, so is there an all-in-one for all role compliance checklist? Yes, in givebacks, but not necessarily in a document. Am I correct on that, Jessica?
We used to. I'm actually checking right now.
I am too, because we've changed some of the requirements.
Yes, and we've really tried to revamp the website and make it easier to navigate.
Right. Yeah. Lawanda says she has not seen it online, and that may very well be because let's see here.
Okay. SCPTA compliance requirements at a glance. So we have it under leader resources and then how to leadership resource bank.
Yep.
And it has the dates on here. I will put it in the chat box. Copy. But we are going to, have some more of these coming out soon.
And I honestly would recommend that everybody click on that link that Jessica has posted, the one that says SCPTA Leader Resources, because it has over 30 documents on there that are very, the titles are very sort of point on as to what they mean. And there is a wealth of information on there. Again, don't reinvent the wheel.
Definitely.
Okay. And I promise this is the last question. So Jessica or Helena, if we want to, because my son is starting middle school this year, if we want to start a PTA at a middle school, do we reach out to you guys? What's the process?
Right. So yay, by the way, number one. But number two is yes. So there is actually under that leader resource, there is a it may actually be on the page before. There is a how to start a PTA document. And what I would do is I would start with that. And then I would reach out to, knowing where you're at in the state, I would reach out to to Jen Newton, because she's our VP of membership, or myself or Jen Haley, who are right local, and we'll kind of walk you through any of it.
Okay, perfect.
But that document is on there, and I'm now just desperately trying to find it just because you asked.
It's the second one down.
Oh yeah, of course it is. I skimmed over that. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, that's awesome. I'll look over that and I'll reach out to Jen. I know the principal Kia, she's all on board, super excited about getting one started. They used to have a PTO, so we know what we need to do is get rid of that EIN and all that stuff. And so we want to start a PTA and all that. So I'll look over that and I'll be in touch with Jen. Thank y'all.
Awesome. And I sent you that link, Keisha, too, to that specific document.
Thanks.
And by the way, don't ever stop asking questions. We love questions. Questions is good, because chances are if you have a question, somebody else is thinking about the same thing and is just not speaking up. So it's a good thing. Okay, folks. Going once, going twice. Going third for evening snack, maybe. And some parting words would also be this. You are a volunteer. You do this because you have the passion for kids, and you do the best that you can. Sometimes when you're new in a role, it feels incredibly overwhelming. It does for all of us. It doesn't matter on which level you are. You know, it is. But PTA can also be amazing for you as a person. Some of my best friends I've met through PTA. But more than anything, just understand that you do the best you can. And as long as you start every day as a PTA volunteer, keeping that as your central goal, you're going to be just fine. You know, there's a bunch of people on this call. There is a bunch of people in different leadership positions across the state who are happy, thrilled, and ecstatic to jump in and help and guide and try to share whatever wisdom we may have accrued over our eons in PTA. And we do it together, you know, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. And remember, don't freak out if a mistake was made. You know, no one's perfect. So we're here to help.
We make mistakes all the time too. It's okay.
I was going to say that. Absolutely.
And this is how the entire state lost confidence in the leadership of South Carolina PTA. I'm kidding, but you know, jokes aside, what I'm getting at is do it with heart and passion, and you're going to be just fine.
Yes.
Okay. Well, with that, I hope all of you have an amazing evening. I'm going to make Jessica stay with me for a second so we can make sure that we get everything posted the way we're supposed to and so forth. But again, you know, don't be strangers. You know how to get a hold of us. So thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit over an hour. Okay?
Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
I'm trying to leave and it won't let me in. Oh my goodness.
You just want to hang out with us.
That's the thing. Keisha just want to hang out with us. It's all good.
Listen, like, can you, I don't know what's going on my phone. Can you take me off? Hold on,
Yes,
wait.
I can kick you out. Hang on a second.
Yeah, kick me out. Thank you. Bye.
But actually, I don't know if I can. Oh my gosh.
Listen, oh my God. Okay, let's see here now.
Wait, am I still the?
Yes, you're still,
Re-
you're going to
okay.
have to do it.
I'm going to remove you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, no, I don't want to report anyone.
No, you want to stop the recording. There we go. All right, it's just us. All right, cool. Stop the recording.
Oh.